Hi, it's Professor Nelson once more, uh, doing the final tutorial on this ring study that we started in class. I'm now going to do the side view. To do that, I'm going to want to clean this up a little so that it looks more like a standard drawing. Okay. I'm also going to slide the drawing over a bit because I'm going to want to use that mirror line as I work out the side view. That should be good. I want to remove the flattened views. And drop that top view down into a more expected position. More typical orientation. Land it up on a grid. Okay. That'll do. Now I need my 45. My break line. And as we mentioned in class, it has to intersect right here. Okay. So we want a line that passes from diagonal to diagonal through this intersection. So I'll bring it down to about here. And carry it up to about there. Hang on a minute. I want to turn off mirroring before I do that. Oh, except for I do want to mark where that was at. Side view line is going to be right in this area. Okay. Alright, so the intersection takes place here. So from this corner up through that corner. That's my 45. Okay. So I'm going to bring some lines over and around. Set up my drawing. Okay, I can bring over a reference from here. I can bring over to the side view from the front. I can bring over a reference for the inside of the finger rest, middle of the ring bore, zoom in a little, make this easier. Okay. Girdle of the stone. Table of the stone. Top of the bezel. Okay. End of the detail. Here. That corner. And that corner. And that's about all the information I should carry over for now. When it starts to get hard to see, it's time to stop and draw. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and carry over some lines. That's a little low. Yeah, actually it's about right. I was looking at the top of the pyramid instead of at that line on the surface. Same one here. Okay, the inside of the finger rest. The top of the finger. The bezel. Girdle. Table. Okay. Now, going to carry all the relevant information I can. From the top view. From here I can get the width of the false bezel, the length of the stone, which I have to kind of imply because the prong's in the way. The overall width of the shank, which like I said is almost straight, tapers just barely, particularly for the first half of the ring. It would be nice to see how thick this narrow strip is. Okay, somewhere in there. Alright, so I'm going to bring those lines. That's all I can really glean from this view, so I'm going to bring that information over. Okay. So that's all the information from the front. That's all the information from the top. And here's our center line for our side view. Okay, since I have mirroring on, I'm only going to need to draw the information on one side. And in the interest of time, that's what I'm going to do. So. Where the bezel and the outline of the stone, full length of the stone, meet the 45. Now the space here should look like the space here. When you're sketching, you don't have the tools that I have right now. But that's what you want. You want to imagine a box, a square, that comes around each one of these corners. This space is equal to this space. And it's going to just go for the stone, so there's no reason for me to pull this much down. I mean, this is for the width of the bezel, false bezel. There's no reason for me to carry this much farther down than that. This is for the width of the stone, so that's far enough. I don't actually have a table drawn in the top view, so I'll have to estimate that a little later. Overall thickness of the shank. I'm going to want this line to carry half the way down, because that's as far as I can see from the top is right here. So that's as far as I will carry that construction line. And then the next bit of reference I have is for the narrow part of this decorative pattern. Which I'll also carry down to the center line. Okay. And for now, that looks like it's what we're going to have to work with. So now I'm going to begin the drawing. It's like I have these breadcrumbs, this trail of breadcrumbs that I can now follow. All right. Well, the stone's probably the easiest thing to draw. I can get rid of these guides. Hang on. There. So we'll start with the bezel and the stone like we did in class. This is the outside of the stone. Hits the 45. Drops down to where it hits the girdle of the stone, because the girdle is what this line represents. So girdle, width, and there. Now I'm going to just guesstimate a nice angle from the stone. For the top of the stone, I can take it off of that front pretty much, and that's fine. And here's the top of the table of the stone. Okay. And then there is, take this line for the false bezel. All roads meet here. Put that in. And then I'll just carry a line similar to this angle over here because I'm drawing the same portion of the stone. And then I'll put in the girdle. Okay. So there's the side. Notice how the side is longer than the front, which is how it should be. The front represents this distance. The side represents this distance. Okay. So now I'm going to do my bezel. I know that it comes down to the finger rest, and the finger rest is this top line. And I know the width of the bezel is basically here. Oh, go back to my... Digitally, I can choose whether I'm using a ruler or not. I'll just draw a straight line for now. I'll decide if I want to sweeten that up or make it softer or better in some way later. For now, that'll do. For my shank, here's a piece of information I could have used. Where is the top of this shoulder without considering the pyramid? The top of this material, this outer layer of decoration. I can actually pull that. It's right here. Okay. So since I know it's right there, I can draw that. And I know that this makes basically a straight line down to here. Might taper a little bit. What I'm actually going to do, since I know that the full length one I drew did taper slightly, I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler. And let it taper just slightly. Okay. Now I know this is scalloped, so these two lines are just really construction lines in the wrong color for now. Okay. This lower guideline indicates where this corner is, this corner of this first scallop. And I know that it's at this elevation, pretty much. So I can put that in. This is the location of the second scallop. So I can put that in, the point of the scallop. This is the location for the end. Now I would love to remember how that ended. Fortunately, I did not throw that away. It ends in a point. So there. Okay, so I have that piece of information. I know that these scallops come into this depth. Right? I know this last arc or scallop swings all the way in and doesn't really make it out all the way. It comes to here and swoops around. And if there weren't this tuft here, this pad, I would actually see the thickness of that metal. I'll kind of gesture that in just to remind me that that's what I would see there. How do you know that? You don't. That's an experience thing. Sadly, not everything I can do is going to be in a formula. Some of it you will have to remember that I've done it and try and look for ways to observe it in your own work, see it in nature. And see where you can make it work, where you can apply it. Now it's time for the little pads. They come out to about the same thickness. Which means this one will fill in most of that. And actually, since I would see the side of that, what I'm really going to get here is a straight line with just an indication that something happens there. By the time I get here, that's going to hold its own and I don't have to draw that thickness. Once again, that's an experience thing, but of course it's a tiny little detail. If you didn't have this little straight piece and this little dot, it's not going to make a big difference to your client. I do it because I know it's there. And much of what I turn into my clients at the end of the day, I'm the only person who knows it's there. Alright, now we're going to put our pyramids in. This pyramid is actually about the same height as that upper ring bore was. But it comes down to here. Something like that. The one up on top, it climbs right up to the edge of that bezel. And this one still have a slight upward angle of it, but it's almost looking straight at us. Okay. I am going to turn off some of these construction lines and come in and clean up these pyramids a little bit. Alright. While I'm in here tight, I'll clean up a little. Okay, I bring my grids back and my construction lines back. Okay. So, now what I need to do is draw the bottom part of the shank, which isn't hard. It has this scallop that's going to continue. I don't see it here. Fortunately, I did draw this out flat, so I know that this comes in here. If I hadn't drawn it out flat, I would be discovering this and creating it now in this view, which is not a bad way to do it. It's just, if you've already done it once, there's no reason to do it twice. And like I told you in class, I like to always see this cross section. This piece right here, okay? From here to here. That's what's represented between these two construction lines. I like to treat it kind of separate. I like to think of it separately so that I know exactly what kind of cross section I'm putting on the shank here. This time I'm going to put a nice round, half round. Which is kind of a surprise given all of the kind of angular architectural elements in this design. But because it's a fairly wide shank coming under the finger, that soft, full half round will make it look smaller as light hits it and make it more comfortable under the finger. So, now, the bezel. The false bezel. The bezel starts here, but it actually comes down a little further. By the time it reaches here, it has actually receded down a little because it's arcing along the finger. That's easy enough to draw. Just going to draw a gentle arc from here where it would be meeting the finger back to where it would meet the shank. And now I'm going to decide if I want to taper this a little bit. And since it is beveled a little bit here, I'm going to bevel it here a little bit too. And because there's no reason to have a hard corner here, I'll soften that a bit. Now it's time for the prongs. Well, once again, just like in the side view, the front view, the prongs come right off of the false bezel. They're flush with the edge of it. So, I'll keep that. Indicated thickness of prong this time. And then, for the prongs on the sides, something like that. Clean up the guidelines. Zoom out a little bit. Delete my guides. Turn off the canvas. Grid. Okay. Turn off the ruler. In class, that would qualify as a technical study of that ring in all three views. Okay? Hope you found that helpful. I did leave this a little thick in here. I'm looking up and seeing it's not quite the same. That bothers me, but not enough to go back in and draw on it. You understand the process, okay? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in class next week.